The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line. It's Friday lunchtime. Sorry about the weather. But it's your chance to have your say, because we're open line today. On Monday, Enterprise is here. The Minister will be here. Tim Johnson. Call, text, email or WhatsApp and you'll be on the air. Just a note from yesterday. 068 said the issue with Penny, this is Penny, the Isle of Man Bank mobile Ford Transit thing that went around the Isle of Man and was the answer to everything when it worked. And half of the time it didn't. But the issue with Penny was because it was often off the road. The banks don't care anything about ordinary banking customers now. They make it so difficult for people to use banks and then say, we're closing the facility because nobody's using it. It's all a ploy to close everything down. I'm sure their PR departments wouldn't agree. It's surely not a ploy to make ordinary people. I think it's fairly obvious. I mean, the banks like corporate customers, commercial customers, because that's where the big fat fees are. With ordinary people, they're driving everybody to use apps and online banking just so that banks can go. We have four branches of the Isle of Man Bank, 2 in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin. That's your lot. That's your lot. Can you imagine thinking that 10, 20 years ago? Let's get to the phones now. Howard's with us. Hello, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just more of an observation and a little bit of advice for both road users and the particular person I want to mention. Yesterday, my wife and I were coming back home again, and we stopped at the traffic lights at St. Ninians. We were on the grandstand side of the lights. And it was late on in the afternoon and starting to go dark. And next thing, this gentleman come trundling up through in an enclosed invalid, what do you call it, those little carriages. And of course you're only doing 15 mile an hour at the best. But as I say, it was going dark. Traffic was behind him and held up, only for a few minutes. But he had no lights on this vehicle either.
Oh dear.
No. And he was an elderly gentleman, and I don't know how far he was going. Good luck to him to get out and about. But all I ask is that he does it safely, because it looked like an accident waiting to happen. And it's not the first time I've seen this. I've seen him on the promenade going across one of the roundels over by the Villa Marina. And of course, the traffic has to slow down.
Did it look like it had lights on? He just wasn't using them, or?
No, there was no lights whatsoever on, to what I could see.
Oh, really?
None. And it was a bluey coloured. It was a lovely machine, but having said that, they're only very fragile. They're only small, and it only needs some impatient soul. And once they got past the line of traffic that was at the traffic lights, boom, they were gone then, the ordinary cars. So enjoy your travels to this gentleman, but please do it safely.
Well, it's interesting to know. I just wonder if anybody knows when a mobility scooter has to have lights on it, front and rear lights. I mean, I would assume they have reflectors on anyway, but you would assume if they're in the main carriageway that it would have lights on, particularly in this weather when it's getting dark at 4:30.
Yeah. Well, that's what it was. We were coming home. We'd been on messages, and we just got stopped at the lights at St. Ninians, and I thought, I said to my wife, look at this chap coming up through here. And okay, it was only a matter of minutes, but you know how impatient some drivers are. They can't wait for a second or two.
And more to the point as well, in that some people can't judge distances. So if somebody was overtaking him and just caught him a little whack, he could be over.
Well, I said to my wife last night, we're obliged by law to give a cyclist 1.5 metres. What is there any distance or advice as to give to mobility scooters?
Yeah.
You know, because the lines of traffic come down there. As you're going up from St. Ninians, there's 3 lanes, and that gives room for one car, basically. So these people were flicking right past them. Zoom, zoom. You know, I could see it in my mirrors. And so this chap, he was plodding along, quite the thing. And, as I say, good luck to him, because he can get out and about and see the world. But please, I ask, either his family or himself, if he's listened to your program, please do it safely, because there's a lot of people out there that have no consideration for other road users.
All right, okay. Howard, thanks for bringing that up, Howard. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
And you, take care.
Thanks
Bye
a lot.
now.
13 minutes past 12. Who knows then? What's the official line on mobility scooters? Do they have to have lights on if they're using them in the main carriageway? Front and rear lights? Indicators? Who knows? And what's the official distance that you have to clear them by when you overtake a mobility scooter on the main road? Any thoughts? Text, email, call, WhatsApp. Further to the comments yesterday, when's the Castletown Golf Links Hotel going to be refurbished, rebuilt for desperately needed hotel accommodation in the south? Well, I think they're aiming to knock the thing down, aren't they? It really does look very, very gaunt. A gaunt, abandoned citadel in the south. And hopefully that'll move forward. Amy said, I think the Manx government's given up. They know nobody's going to be re-elected, so they can't be bothered. They don't listen to anybody. I'm sure they disagree, Amy. I'm sure they are looking forward to the election next year with alacrity. There is a big solar array on QE2 Sports Hall, so there are some solar panels on government buildings. The QE2 Sports Hall roof has got a solar array, although we do need a lot more solar on government properties, or put the floating ones on the reservoir, says Matty. That was the thought, wasn't it? Did you hear about that? They're thinking of putting floating solar panels on Sulby Reservoir. It does 2 things. It gives you solar power, and 2, it stops evaporation in the hot weather. We'll see whether it happens. Regarding the next election, says David, in my opinion, people with the acumen who should be running our government won't put up with keyboard warriors. So therefore, we will get used to those other people in charge in the government, says Cheers. It says Cheers, says David. Well, there's your conundrum. Lots of people who have business acumen, who have administrative experience, may not want to take the pay cut because they're earning too much in what they're doing now. So what sort of politicians will we get next year? Will we get retired business people, retired senior civil servants who want to come in and do their bit? We don't really know. One thing's certain, we don't really have farmers in Tynwald at the moment, which for the Isle of Man is astonishing, and not much shocks farmers. As a breed, farmers are a very hardy bunch, but they were shocked by the Milan vets announcement. The Manx NFUs launched an anonymised survey on how farms rely on veterinary support after Milan vets announced farm services will end this month. That's it. 2 weeks gone. The union says it's working with the government to respond quickly, calling the service vital and highly valued. It hopes the results will strengthen its request for Milan to extend the notice period or reconsider altogether. General Secretary of the Manx National Farmers Union, Sarah Comish.
I've never conducted a survey with a response like it. We've already had 165 responses within just 2 days, the majority of which were with Milan as a farm business and now have no alternative. And I think the primary issue here is the lack of notice period.
And what do you think the chances are that the decision will be reversed or even postponed? Because Milan is part of a much bigger organisation, 1,000 vet practices in the UK. Do you think they'll be receptive to what a small island has to say?
I absolutely hope so. So we are writing to them. I know our chief government vet is doing everything she possibly can to resolve the situation alongside other vets on the island. Not only is it a serious animal welfare issue, emergency care, everything, that's just not going to be possible for the remaining vets on the island to cover. Physically not possible. But also it's going to threaten everybody's farm assurance through Red Tractor.
And in Tynwald next week, there's going to be an urgent question being asked. What would you say is the biggest concern? Is it the animal welfare aspect, or does it also have implications on things like food supply even?
Yeah, well, the immediate concern is obviously animal welfare, but it's also farmer welfare as well. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of people that we've spoken to at the union who are seriously stressed right now, coming up to a time of year which is already very stressful. The veterinary services are absolutely integral to that. And so removal of those services is absolutely devastating.
Sarah Comish there from the Manx National Farmers Union. The practice, Milan Vets, is owned by Independent Vet Care Limited, a large off-island veterinary group. It's been suggested the decision to withdraw services was made elsewhere. Well, Manx Radio's countryside presenter, one of them, along with Simon Clark, is Kiri Kermode, and the Kermodes, of course, farm at Orrisdale Farm in Ballasalla. And Kiri said this is unsettling.
The broader problem I feel that the farming industry may have is there's a shortage of vets generally on the Isle of Man, with a number of the books already closed at these clinics. So I don't really know where we can go. It is all sort of up in the air at the moment. The animals' welfare is obviously front and centre of all of this. It is critical that we do have that emergency cover one way or another. So it is very much, we're in no man's land. The decision by IVC has come as a bit of a shock. I know that fellow farmers have said, a lot of the prevention programmes that have been rolled out by the Milan veterinary officers have been very good. So prevention is better than cure. So I can understand maybe a decline in some of the immediate treatments. But as far as the broader picture goes, we've got a lot of schemes and programmes that the vets undertake for us, routine work. So, we've got to keep up those accreditations. We need the vet to do it, and also to cover the emergency care. It is really worrying time, Lewis.
What is the outlook like? What are you hoping will happen over the next few weeks? What do you need to happen?
Yeah, so in the next few weeks, we've really got to come together as an industry to put our case forward and get all of the relevant bodies and people on board to find a solution. We are going to have to come together to find a solution for this. I know that decisions from a bigger company that maybe don't understand the island's ways and methods over here may see things differently and may realise actually this isn't the right thing to do and retract, we hope, possibly. But I know that DEFRA are working hard with the Manx National Farmers Union to pull the vets together to see what we can do in the short term anyway.
Well, we'll see. But something has got to happen, really, because the crunch is coming in 2 weeks' time. And it's not overstating the case to say, as Kiri said, there's a lot of stress around the farming community at the moment. Milan Vets said it's going to end farm veterinary services on the 30th of November, citing a long-term decline in the number of farm clients and what it describes as a wider decline of pastoral farming on the Isle of Man. In a letter to clients, the company said it's made significant investments in staff, equipment and software over the past 18 months to improve its farm services, but the continuing was no longer sustainable. That means there's no money in it for them. It claims the decision hasn't been taken lightly and that it would help farmers transfer records to other providers. DEFRA has already stated it's aware of the announcement on Monday and is now in talks with industry representatives and vets to see what happens. Well, something needs to happen very quickly, doesn't it? Just curious, how many prefabs could be built on the old prison site? prefabs went up fairly quickly. Well, I think Liz D, thank you Liz, 009, they're now called modular construction. And some of those prefabs around the UK lasted an awful long time. They're only supposed to be up for about 10 years. As to whether that would happen over here, as I say, modular construction is quite the thing at the moment. Bearing in mind, we need houses, we need accommodation. Of course, it's what happens to that accommodation once it's built, because if it's not sold, i.e. if it's rented out, that really would just prolong the problem, really, because people who are in private rentals or in social rentals, a lot of them want to get out and own their own property and have an appreciating asset. Can I add to the fuel price discussion? John 985. I visit the UK a number of times a year, and in my experience, petrol and diesel prices on the Isle of Man are currently actually cheaper than in the UK. Today, diesel's 136.9 per litre on the Isle of Man. At Asda in Lancaster, according to a fuel comparison website, which was updated today, it's 142.9. 6p more expensive. I believe there's a similar differential in favour of the island for petrol too, as well. Thank you, 985. Thanks also. Our next election, in my opinion, this is regarding getting people a high quality of candidate for election. Well, there is, when people often worry or moan about the standard of candidates in the election, I'm often prompted to say, why don't you stand yourself? It's the old situation, isn't it? Something must be done, you do it. So if you think the standard of politicians isn't good enough, perhaps it's your turn to step into the light. I keep saying, put your lights on, says 490. All vehicles, bikes, anything. Give other people a chance to see you. Wet, dry, sunny, it doesn't make a difference. Never mind continuing with the 20 miles per hour. Sort out the basics first. Make sure people get their lights on. Well, I understand the constabulary is out checking on people's lights. I wonder what's going to happen to the local meat industry. Doubled losses at the meat plant and double the bailout money, says George. Well, it just depends what you want to do. If you want to keep a meat industry on the Isle of Man, obviously having a meat processing plant is the thing to do. Milan Vats say the decline in farmers. I heard they offered a new package and took on a new farmer a couple of months back, says Pete. Is that true? 236. And if we don't get some good MHKs next year to actually take control instead of letting civil servants run the Isle of Man, says Benjamin, I wouldn't be surprised if the Isle of Man needs bailing out over the next 5 years. Then Westminster will see it as they're incompetent. I'll probably station an MP here and tell the Manx government to run things through them instead. It's a sad state of affairs, but constitutionally, Westminster could take over if they really wanted to. They just need the Crown approval. I thought it was the UK government can intervene if there is it civil unrest or a breakdown in society? Interesting point of view. Thank you, Benjamin, for that. And a note in from A Quick Thought. This is Francis regarding the new steam packet boat Manxman. Should tonight's and tomorrow's sailings be cancelled, maybe it'd be a good time to actually clean the inside lounges and loos. Says you've not been on there. Also repair the broken blinds, the seat reclining buttons, the water fountains, and find the remote control to put on some volume on the TVs. Francis has been on the boat lately. I think the previous texter was right. Social media is trying to run the government, and it's just plain nasty. It's not representative of the whole public. Why would anybody want to subject themselves and their families to 5 years of that? Good point, Liz. That's happened really, I think it was 2012. So it's some 13 years we've had social media. It really, really changed then, and now more and more people are on social media. And who'd have thought that somebody's comment on the Isle of Man can be around the world in a fraction of a second. Photos can be around the world in a fraction of a second, almost at no cost. And comments can be posted at any time of day or night. And once half a dozen people get chatting in a chat room together, suddenly that becomes 36 opinions, or 36 likes, or 72 likes. That's the issue with social media. We haven't really bottomed out how we handle social media. Lots of people are involved in it. Lots of people don't get involved in it whatsoever. But the thing is, if you become a politician, you will be subject to social media. Whether or not that's something you can handle, that's down to you. 867 said the problem is that the government would rather cover farmland over with houses than use the land to feed us all. It's a bother, isn't it, when we were at the Royal Show and we were talking about the small proportion of food that's grown on the Isle of Man that we eat on the Isle of Man. The fact that Ramsey Bakery went, consequently milling wheat isn't being grown on the Isle of Man. There's a store of milling wheat at Laxey Mills. Who knows what's going to happen to Laxey Mills, whether or not it's going to move and they'll develop the site where Laxey Mills is now. Time was, we used to grow hundreds of thousands of tons of spuds on the Isle of Man. Now we import them, and they're a lot cheaper than the ones that we can grow. Is there a role for the Isle of Man to do something to guarantee food? I mean, who'd have thought that, in these days of aspiring towards net zero, food miles are really, really important. Yet, who enforces them? We could grow literally all the spuds that we eat on the Isle of Man, we could grow. And then, how about that for food miles? Thank you, Colin. He just said, what on earth is happening regarding the Golf Links Hotel? Derby Haven Residents Society says it's pleased with the findings of this new report into how a complaint about the former Castletown Golf Links Hotel was handled. Well, the Tynwald Commissioner for Administration, the Ombudsman, really found there'd been maladministration by Maloo commissioners when dealing with a request to issue a demolition notice for the building, which residents described as an embarrassing eyesore. If you've seen it, you'll understand why. The report will be laid before Tynwald next week, and residents group are now calling on members to consider whether local authorities should have more power to demolish derelict or dilapidated properties. Here's Sean Murphy from the Residents Society.
The Tynwald Commissioner came to us to seek our views because we had been heavily involved throughout the planning process when the previous owners had submitted their planning application. So, yeah, we've had a long history of concern and obviously interest in the site because it is a very important site within Derby Haven for us Derby Haven residents, and we're keen to see that site is restored to its true potential, really.
So what does the society think about the report, and what did you make of it when it was published?
Well, the Ombudsman's gone to quite considerable lengths to take on board the various views and responses from the various parties. And that process has taken quite a long time. It's a very extensive report extending to over 220 pages. So, yes, I think the Ombudsman has captured anything that can possibly be said in terms of the whole process that Maloo commissioners have engaged with in terms of the core issue of the condition of the former Castletown Golf Links Hotel.
Do you see the report benefiting the Resident Society and the situation with the hotel? Do you see any at all?
I think the report does serve to highlight some of the issues involved with dealing with dereliction, and that's really why we call on Tynwald to take this chance to review how these powers operate. I think in terms of Derby Haven, all being well, because we now have a new owner of the site, they have indicated that they've actually appointed a contractor to undertake demolition of the building once all of the necessary approvals are in place. So I think we can reasonably confidently say that things are now starting to move, and the eyesore at least will be removed. Thereafter, it will be down to a planning application, we assume at some stage, by the new owners to do something with that site.
Sean Murphy, that was, Derby Haven's Resident Society, talking to Emma Draper from the Local Democracy Service about what's going to happen. It's all happening in the south, obviously, because obviously the Buchan School's gone in Castletown. That's going to be 86 properties apparently built on the site of the old Buchan School. And School Hill, that at last the School Hill Commissioners development is going to be going ahead. So more houses. What's going to happen at the Castletown Golf Links Hotel? Your guess is as good as mine.
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells Skips will bring to you.
Need quality Type 1 stone for your building or contracting job? Then contact Tells with no minimum order for collection or delivery. Call 677 137. Visit Tells Limited in Snugborough or find Tells Limited on Facebook.
Skips are what they do.
We're the guys that hire one to you.
Call Tell Skips today.
677 137.
Thinking about your next step? Whether you're leaving school, changing career, or aiming higher, University College Isle of Man is here for you. Join us at our open evening on Thursday 20th of November from 4 to 7 p.m. at our Homefield Road campus. Discover our courses, meet expert lecturers, explore the facilities, and see how UCM can help you belong, grow, and thrive. Visit ucm.ac.im for more information.
Did you know you can now get home heating oil vouchers from Ellen Vannin Fuels? They make a great gift and from as little as £10. Home heating oil vouchers available now from Ellen Vannin Fuels. Call 844 000 to find out more.
I've waved my magic wand and Panto is back at the Gaiety Theatre. From the 19th to the 31st of December, Stage Ed proudly presents the greatest pantomime of them all,
Cinderella!
Join Cinderella, her ugly sisters, Cheeky Buttons and Dashing Prince, and of course, me, your fabulous fairy godmother. Expect laughter, music, fun, and the biggest Christmas treat for the whole family. But hurry, tickets are flying faster than my pumpkin carriage. Book now at villagaiety.com or call the box office on 600 555. Cinderella at the Gaiety Theatre. Don't miss your chance to sparkle.
Sponsored by Kingsley Moody and supported by Manx Radio.
Are you a small charity here on the Isle of Man? Are you looking for volunteers, hoping to raise awareness and chasing those crucial pounds and pennies to support your work? Well, Manx Radio can help. You could be our next 1 to 3 Charity of the Week. With daily on-air coverage, podcast and social media promotion, we can help support you and those you help. Just email the numbers 123@manxradio.com and listen out for the feature each weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. The Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
This is Phil. I do think the government should be made up of retired business people, men and women who are successful with whatever they've achieved. In other words, we'll get some clever people. Well, there are clever people in Tynwald now, I would imagine, aren't there? And Tomo tells me apparently the Three Legs feature opposite the sea terminal is screeching. Apparently, when the wind catches it at a certain level, it starts whistling. We've got a whistling Three Legs. And Bonzo's with us now. Hi, Bonzo.
Hello, yes. You were mentioning about the idea of, or somebody was mentioning about the idea of direct rule from Westminster.
Somebody was saying that if we've got no money, that he was suggesting that Westminster could step in. Is that possible, Bonzo?
Well, I don't think it would be a question of them stepping in if we didn't have any money, mainly because they don't have any money either. They don't want to take on another line of expenditure. But there is a capacity for UK government to introduce direct rule into overseas territories and Crown dependencies. That would be via the Privy Council, I would think, but that would be in great extremis, and that would be either, firstly, civil insurrection. So if we all decided to march on the quays and Government House with our flaming torches and pitchforks, then the Lieutenant Governor may actually sort of make the phone call to UK and say, "Can I have some troops, please?" or something like that. But normally, that option has quite a high bar, and it is essentially for what's termed failure of good governance.
Right.
And that can cover can cover areas such, or that usually covers areas such as proven corruption, or B, gross negligence by those particular governments. And of course, it has been used. The Turks and Caicos Islands were under direct rule, I think it was for 3 years, for various corruptions and malpractices. And indeed the British Virgin Islands were essentially under special measures, direct rule without it quite being formally direct rule for some time. So it's not as if it isn't possible. It would be a very high bar, and it would be a very last resort for UK to take. But it is a resort that is available.
Wow. I mean, as I say, it wasn't said flippantly. It's just, I just wonder what the end of this particular nexus is, because we are obviously spending more than we're earning at the moment. We're going into reserves. So it will be interesting to know from the government, exactly where we are in this situation and what the big plan is.
Well, the big plan is that there isn't one. Eventually, and to a certain extent, that's understandable because, of course, we're at the mercy of other people, namely the UK. And the UK at the moment is sort of making its budget up as it goes along daily, and it's only got another week before it announces it. So, the old project management thing, the first casualty is the plan. That continually applies. So I have a modicum of sympathy when government says, we've got the plan, but events and things in spanners and works and stuff. There is that, but the island plan has been meddled about with and delayed and obfuscated and just very well, to say that its implementation has not been well done is a bit of an understatement.
Would you say there's any chance of anything major being done before the election next September?
Only if it's absolutely necessary.
Wow.
Because there are two central drivers in Manx politics. The politics of expediency and the politics of embarrassment. Rational argument, reasoned argument, no, that doesn't make anything happen. It's only when government absolutely has to do something, or when it's been shown up, so it has to do something, that anything happens in any real substantive sort of change.
Are you optimistic about the future, Bonzo?
Well, there's the 6.4 billion pound question, I should think. I'm optimistic if certain changes are made, certain things, but that would require electoral reform. It would require also a fundamental change in taxation policy.
Okay, all right.
Getting essentially rolling back what some people term, along with me, term the welfare state.
Okay. Thanks for calling today, Bonzo. Have a good weekend.
Okay, then.
Good to hear from you.
Bye.
It's 20-1 on Manx Radio. Speaking to a Douglas councillor, this is Will, this is anonymous, Skeet, this is, they won't be repairing the railings on Douglas Prom as DOI are due to ask for money to continue with the new sea wall north up the Prom. I think this is shocking. We've not heard that, Will. And it will be interesting to know, are we used to that wall now? It does hamper the view, doesn't it, of the sea? Anybody, and particularly children in prams and what have you, anybody in a wheelchair or mobility scooter can't see the sea, just see the grey wall. So what's going to happen? And thanks also. If you need lights on a car to see, you shouldn't be driving. You are the hazard, said Desmond. I don't think people need lights to see. It's just to show other people where they are. It's good that the constabulary is checking out people's lights, but they don't turn them on in the first place. There's a switch in every car, says 490. you remember when Volvo introduced the lights you couldn't turn off? On the top of Milan Vets, says 983, you need to speak to DEFA as export of live animals will stop on the 20th November as the minister hasn't sorted this out with the UK and the EU. Be a bit more specific, would you, 983? I'm not a farmer, just my experience with a vet in Ramsey. If my dog's ill out of hours, I'm told to go to Onchan. I live in Ramsey, I don't drive. It does worry me, says John. Regarding the Isle of Man Bank, it doesn't want your business as it's a Jersey-registered company, RBS International, trading as the Isle of Man Bank. I went to the Athol Street Douglas branch seeking clarification from a corporate manager. There isn't one there. They're all in Jersey. This morning I had a call from a person in this bank from Era. I'm a retired former CEO of a bank subsidiary in the Isle of Man, so I know what I'm talking about. And regarding the vet problem, there's no solution as other than a few independent vets. Most are owned by private equity groups who are accountants and blinkered bottom line profit culture. The CMA is writing a report, but this body seems to have no teeth where this is concerned. The cost differential of vehicle fuel down to ethanol being added in the UK, but not on the Isle of Man, says Pete. No, we're ethanol free, aren't we, today? So what's going to happen to this railing on Douglas Prom? Is it going? Is it staying? I saw a police vehicle going over the mountain with just its running lights on and people putting their headlamps on at dusk, says 569. I trust you took the number, did you? How will the seawall work? Well, it'll be built, won't it? It's there to stop debris coming over. There is another way round it. That's to hollow out the sand the other side, but they've apparently not welcomed that. I welcome the reintroduction of the Cregneash bus. I live on the Howe Road and notice the buses being used are double-deckers, says Julian, usually empty. Out of season as we are now, surely the buses could be minibuses and run less frequently. Must be costing a fortune for the Cregneash bus. The lack of food production here is alarming, says 068. With the world in such an unstable state, it's important to produce more of our own food. We don't know what crisis might happen next. So please give the support to our farmers. All the uncertainty with the Milan vets has made the situation even worse, and I think it's very sad. Paul said you need a licence to open a veterinary practice on the Isle of Man. The Manx government hold all the cards on this one if they want to put pressure on Milan. Just saying. 851 says if Milan vets say there isn't enough farm work to make it pay, then where are the farmers getting their animals treated? Well, they won't be. So at lambing time, that's going to be a real problem. I'm not a farmer. We heard that one already. On top of the issues, again, 983, we need to speak to DEFA. We're trying to talk to DEFA. Well, they're apparently on this situation with Milan vets. What they can do about it, quite how they can solve it, we don't know, because this is obviously about, we've talked many times before about the cost of veterinary fees for household pets. Sky high comparatively to a few years ago, but that's probably because of the insurance situation. Now that pets are usually insured, when there's an insurance claim, then often the price goes up. Costs a lot of money now to take a domestic pet to the vet. And if they've decided there's more money in treating domestic pets than treating animals, agricultural animals, that's their decision to take. However, we do have an industry on the Isle of Man, and surely that's for the government to work out. What would you say?
Hello, I'm Gregory Greenfingers, and today I'm here to tell you all about Green Valley greenhouses. Now, whether you're an avid gardener or just starting your growing journey, an expertly crafted customisable greenhouse from Green Valley Farm Supplies provides the perfect environment for year-round gardening. And best of all, Green Valley are now taking orders, so be sure to visit greenvalley.co.im to find out more and get in touch today. Green Valley Greenhouses, for your own gardening world.
Visit the New Look Cafe Villa and sample the new menu. With disabled parking right outside the door, Cafe Villa is the perfect spot to park up for hearty breakfasts, pancakes, baked potatoes, delicious mains, award-winning ice cream and much more. Using local produce where possible and supporting local producers. With seating inside and out and a stunning sea view. It's a relaxing spot. New look, new menu. That's Cafe Villa on Douglas Prom. Open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. with easy disabled parking spaces at the front entrance.
Corkill and Callow are the longest-serving funeral directors on the island, relied upon during the most difficult times. We understand that nobody wants to arrange a funeral. That's what we're here for. Our small, friendly team are here to support you, making a challenging time more manageable. With our base in Ramsey and now open in Ballasalla, let us take care of everything so that you can focus on what matters most. Call Corkill and Callow on 855 354.
Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
Diabetes Isle of Man exists to support everyone living with or affected by diabetes, including parents, carers, family members, and friends of those living with the condition. You can follow us on all social media channels at Diabetes IOM. Or if you can help, please visit diabetesisleofman.com to find out more.
This advert is brought to you by Kell Properties.
After a first loss in 6 matches last time out, FC Isle of Man will be on the hunt to get back onto happier trails in the NWCFL Premier Division this weekend. The Ravens face a familiar foe in West Didsbury and Chorlton at the Bowl this Saturday, with the visitors flying high towards the top of the table. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Darren Timpson for FC Isle of Man versus West Didsbury and Chorlton, kicking off at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Benjamin was referring to Westminster direct rule. Can you imagine Sir Keir Starmer in charge here? Imagine what he'd do, says Paul. Well, can you imagine? I don't think we've got any hotels, have we? How long before the government's favourite developer gets to build on the Calf of Man? I don't think anybody's going to be building on the Calf of Man in the near future. Oh, just a quick one. Talking of pets, a black and white border collie with a black collar has been found in somebody's garden on Devonshire Road. If she belongs to you, get in touch, would you, on 166 177. Okay, 166 177. A black and white border collie has been found in somebody's garden on Devonshire Road. 166 177. If she belongs to you, you can identify it. And again, regarding what you were talking about, the Devil's Elbow, it really needs Armco barriers built into the corner instead of plastic chevrons. It should be on the DOI's to-do list, administered by a civil servant, says Peter. That was a topic yesterday that we covered. It's not long since MHKs voted to double their salary. It didn't quite double, did it? With the reason being to attract better quality candidates. How's that going? Maybe they need to double the salary again. That should do the trick, says 404. Well, the reason that they made being an MHK a living wage was, at the time, they didn't want people in business, mainly men, to have an MHK's job as a part-time job. So rich business people could have a part-time job as an MHK. They wanted people to be able to devote themselves, and not just rich people. So that was the reason it was done. Now you have people who, let's face it, it will be the best paying job they ever have. And a lot of people who earn a lot of money, who are well qualified, won't take the job as an MHK because for some of them it won't be worth getting out of bed for. And it's a lot of hassle. And you get all the social media stuff. So we're stuck in the middle of this. But we'll know next year. I'm sure there are many, many high-quality candidates who are preparing themselves for the election next year. Regarding the possible development at the Buchan School, is the infrastructure capable of dealing with this? Lots of flooded roads in the area. The drains, I think, aren't capable of dealing with the existing rainfall. Does rainwater and waste go into the same sewers and drains? And if it can't take this rainfall, what's going to happen? Well, we'll see. Presumably, it's Hartford Homes that are developing the Buchan School. Lots of houses. 687, we'll see. When dealing with the Isle of Man Bank issue, I had to speak to Jersey and Gibraltar today, says Gaz. What's the weather like in Gibraltar? I know what I was going to say. Was it Trevor? No, it wasn't Trevor. Amy. Thank you, Amy. She said, you haven't mentioned anything about the public sector pension. Why? Well, nobody asked me, Amy. public sector workers could see an increase in the level of pensions provided by the government. Tynwald is going to be asked to approve changes to the public sector pension schemes in December's sitting. The amendments being proposed as a result of the Public Sector Pension Authority's cost-sharing valuation in 2022. So this is Chief Exec Kath Brondon and Chair Jerry Carter.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
The changes that we're proposing is to increase the level of public sector pensions, so increase the rate at which pension is accrued at, and also reduce contributions. And this has come about from a cost-sharing evaluation that the PSPA has undertaken, which looks over a set period of time how the changes in the cost of providing a pension have increased or decreased. This latest cost-sharing valuation has shown that there has been a decrease in the cost of pensions, and hence that decrease has resulted in a saving. And the PSPA, after considering and consulting with its various stakeholders, has determined that that saving will be passed on to scheme members, and by way of reducing contributions and increasing the level of pension.
Why was that decision made?
There were two reasons behind that. The first was that if we decreased the benefits significantly, that would have been a significant reduction in Treasury cash flow at a time when the budget's very tight. And secondly, we felt that we wanted to avoid what we would call the roller coaster effect, where if the cost sharing results in a big decrease this time and it results in a big increase next time, for example, that you could have a situation where members to the schemes don't have any certainty as to what their contributions are going to be. The analogy is, every month you pay your mortgage, you pay your pension contributions, and you budget for them because you know what they are. And now if there are huge fluctuations in them, it makes it very difficult and very unfair on people to have to adjust their budget. So we try to iron out the bumps, as it were, and keep it on an even keel.
So when it comes to the decrease we've seen, how confident are you that it is as a result of the reforms that have been put in place, or actually the state of the island's economy?
We'd like to say it's down to the reforms, but I think a factor is the state of the island's economy. It's a combination of the two. But the state of the island's economy, particularly in relation to things like salary growth, not matching the assumptions, that would be a factor that has affected this. So it's a combination of both, really.
Jerry Carter and Kath Brondon from the Public Sector Pension Authority. I hope that explains all that. Amy, Brian's with us now. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Andy. I'm just ringing regards your comment about MHKs and the kind of flack they take on social media.
Yeah.
And, you alluded to the fact that maybe people should step up and take their turn at it. One of the good reasons that some of these people are quite happy to take the stick is, you could probably think of 70,000 odd plus good reasons, because as you alluded to just before, quite a few of these MHKs are probably in the best job they've ever had in their life, earning the best money they could ever dream of, along with gold-plated pensions. But the trouble is, they're not up to the job. They're overseeing, the island, to my opinion, is we're getting poorer service. Our quality of life is not as good as it used to be. And that's not just this administration. That goes back to the last. And I often say to people, get yourself a couple of sheets of A4 paper and try and write down all the positives and good things that the government have done to us, and then look at the bad things. The messes they made with capital projects. They've hit us all in our pocket. They've made us poorer. We've got a far worse service than we've ever had, be it healthcare, education, housing. They're just overseeing a total failure, and yet most of us just seem to be working to keep the government going. The government is an over-bloated monster which keeps expanding. And it's us, the working people, the businessmen, the businesswomen. We all just seem to be funding it, and they just keep picking our pocket at will.
But the thing is, Brian, that they will probably say, why don't you step up and do it then? Anybody can, as long as you're old enough and you've got the requisite qualifications, anybody can stand to be an MHK.
Well, yes, they can, but then what you've got to consider, and you did hit the nail on the head, where you've got business people who, if they were to stand, they would probably have to decide it's either their business or stand to be an MHK. And of course, a lot of people who've built up businesses aren't going to just give them up to become an MHK. And also, some of them, as you said, may feel that they don't want to take a drop in income to become an MHK. So we're kind of stuck in this kind of a rut where the people you need aren't available, and we're left with what we've got.
My word. You're depressing me now, Brian. Thanks for calling today.
You're welcome.
Good to hear from you. On the subject of who pays and tax rises, if you work as a secretary in government or for local authority, you get $31,000 a year, says George. Go to the private sector and you won't get that. They'll offer $26,000 to $28,000 if you're lucky. My point is, local authorities look after their own and don't help the private sector. This is about employment and the economy. That was George's message. If you want to get in touch out of hours, the answer phone's on 682-631 or email manninline@manxradio.com. Tim Johnston, MHK, Enterprise Minister, and the Chief Officer, Andrew Stewart, on Monday. Thanks to Chris on the phones. Have a great weekend.
WINT